part 2 of questions from TechPB. I just broke these down into literally solenoid questions. There are lots of other ones which are on a previous video. Jack has already made a video which, if you type in Ego11, what's it? I think if you type in Ego11, there's one of the videos on there which is a breakdown of Jack showing you how the solenoid works.
Go to our learning channel. It's got loads of Ego11 videos. Planet Eclipse TV.
Yeah, Planet Eclipse TV.
Planet Eclipse TV.
And you can see the video there, but there are a lot of other questions I don't think Jack either didn't cover properly, or people are just asking questions. Yeah. So, okay, Tommy Arneston. How do I have to set up the solenoid on the Ego11 to make it shoot like an SL Ego10?
You can't.
Okay, next question. Is that it? Done?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know why you'd want to. I mean, I suppose. I mean, it's just adjustable, isn't it? I mean, if it's set as it comes out of the factory, that's just your nice, safe setting, isn't it? Not.
Yeah, your standard settings are just nice. They'll get you a decent rate of fire and they feel reasonably smooth. And you can go either way. You can either make it go faster and speed the bolt cycle up, or you can go slower and make it really, really smooth. So, but really, even on its very fastest setting, it's not quite as fast as an SLS or an Ego10, and certainly doesn't feel anything like an SLS or an Ego10 to me.
Right. Okay. Is that like cycle?
Kyle.
With a C.
Kyle with a C.
Oh, no.
No.
Okay. Kyle.
Americans have some
Kyle
strange name.
Okay. Yeah, there you go.
Relentless
PB7. Okay. He says, I'm looking for a truly reliable marker, and I now own a high-end American-made Poppet whose solenoid crapped out. I've only had it since May. Has the solenoid been found to be rugged and long-lasting? Also, will the Planet Eclipse warranty cover non-user end malfunctions of the Ego's solenoid?
Yeah, our warranties have always covered the solenoid, and our warranty is pretty generous, and we don't like to be arseholes about anything. You've got to literally run something over for it not to be covered under our warranty most of the time. Well, no. Okay.
If you put a screw through it, like in the old,
if you screw it up yourself and it's clear that you screwed it up, we're not going to cover it. But if it just goes bad on its own, then of course we'd cover it, and we have a really good return policy. We've got great customer support people, so yeah, it would be. The solenoids are really reliable. They're made by a company called Mac in the USA. We test the solenoid. They've had an Ego. This is what they do. They long-term test all the solenoids on when we first started using their solenoids on the Ego7 in 2006. They put a solenoid on test, and that is still running at the moment at 10 cycles per second. And I think they said it's up to something like 5 billion cycles now. And they stop it periodically every few months, check it for leaks, check it for reaction time, energize, de-energize, and it's still running. So
like that IKEA chair.
Yeah, okay. Some bizarre side.
This is a question that lots of people have sort of asked. This one's from Anthony Tharayel.
Yeah,
it's a complicated name.
Okay. Name?
No, there isn't one. No. But he's basically saying, is it possible to put an Ego11 solenoid in an Ego8? Now, I think people have said, is it possible to put an Ego9, 10, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But they also, I think they're thinking, from reading between the lines, that people think they can just grab the solenoid, stick it into one of their old guns, and it gets all the different performance improvements that you can get with the Ego11.
It doesn't work like that, I'm afraid. It just doesn't fit. Physically doesn't fit. I mean, if you could find some way of mounting it, then it has the required flow it needs to actually drive the ram backwards and forwards and the bolt backwards and forwards. But there's no way to actually mount it. Somebody would have to make it a custom manifold, and that in itself can cause issues with the flow in and out. So it's not just the solenoid on its own; it's how the solenoid interacts with all the other components going to and from both the LPR and the ram system. So no, it's not as easy as that.
Okay. Jamie Nicholson.
I forgot to start my timer.
Start it now. Say I were to be changing the solenoid from smooth cycling to fast cycling, back and forth, would the solenoid break down over time? So in other words, if you adjust it a lot, If you
No.
sort of, is it going to go looser or
No.
blah 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 blah?
Now, the actual adjusters in the solenoid, they're the only user serviceable parts in the solenoid, so you can actually take the adjusters out and replace them. But I mean, there's nothing really to go wrong on them. They're just two cylinders that fit inside the solenoid, and they've got an aperture drilled through the adjusters, and you just open and close that aperture within a cylinder. It's really quite simple and rugged design. There's nothing really to go wrong in it now.
He also says, can you do it while the gun's aired up?
Yeah, of course you can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Another. This is from Nick Muzzio.
That's Nikolai at TechPB again. We've already done one of his questions.
Well, I was jumping in from thingy. Is it a physical adjustment or electronic adjustment?
It's a physical adjustment.
It's restricting flows, isn't it?
Yeah, you're restricting flow on the exhaust paths of the solenoid.
Okay. That was quick. I've got to get to my next question, and sorry. How much room is there for error in adjusting a new solenoid? This is from Justin Greed. Oh, jeez. Justin.
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 It would have been easier if they put the TechPB name, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it depends. Unless his Tech PB name was that.
Might be. Justin. All right, Justin.
Yeah. Did you get that?
What's the question?
He just wants to know how much error.
Oh right.
You know, as in, I think
can you screw the gun up?
Yeah, one of the common questions is if I just one all the way to the left, to
Yeah.
the lowest, one to the highest, is that going to stop my marker from working? At the end of the
No,
day,
they both control independently the forward and rearward stroke. So yeah, on the forward stroke you can adjust it low enough where it'll give you a lower velocity, or lower than the peak velocity that you're aiming for. So you always need, if you're trying to hit 300 feet per second, if you turn it to the fully closed position, you won't be able to get 300 feet per second. You have to be at like a nominal value to get 300 feet per second. And the same on the return stroke. If you want to shoot 12 BPS and you have it shut all the way off, you're probably going to struggle to shoot 12 BPS. You're probably only at 8, 9 or 10 BPS. So yeah, you've got to be sensible with what you're doing. You can't just fully close everything off and going for the smoothest possible shot, because then you won't get a decent rate of fire and you won't get a decent velocity. Well, you can't make it so the gun will never fire. It'll still fire, it just either won't go high enough velocity or won't go fast enough rate of fire.
Okay, alright, so you can't screw it up pretty much.
No.
I mean, there's one of the questions, I'll have to find it so we don't run out of time. Basically, I'll find it while I'm talking to Jack. The question was people were saying that our guns are sort of, known to be sort of user-friendly, very easy to use, maintain, all that type of thing. And the concern was that
by adding these, we've made it less friendly.
Yeah, I mean, the question almost sort of said, I wish I could find it now. It was, do we suddenly think that the people playing paintball have got more intelligent?
No, definitely not.
So what they're saying was, is this going to cause you a problem? I mean, they were worried about, they're almost worried, for us, like, are you going to get millions of phone calls saying, my marker's broken because of they've adjusted the solenoid incorrectly, and why do we suddenly want to give the users this level of adjustment? Really, that's that when we have had in the past, but you almost had to read the manual, don't you, in the past? And not a lot of people do that.
Yeah.
So.
I don't know. It's we're looking for something new.
It's from
Bryce.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bryce Larson. Who said this?
It'll have to be awkward, won't it?
No, it's good. It's a good question, really. I mean, it's it's
a very good question, and it's something we have to consider really carefully. We do really want the guns to be as user-friendly as possible. We do stuff where the regulators can't be over-adjusted. So the LPR, you can't physically adjust it over 100 psi, so you're not going to damage your solenoid. On a Geo, your inline regulator can't go over 160 psi because we don't want to damage the solenoid on that. So yeah, it's something we strive very hard to try and make the guns as user-friendly and don't like to use the term, but idiot-proof as possible. If the adjustments had been any more complicated on the Ego11, then I wouldn't have used it. But the fact that it's quite a simple system, it is quite rugged, and you can't actually make the gun not work. I don't think it's going to be an issue. And again, because it's inside the grip frame, you've really got to know that you've got to go inside the grip frame, which hopefully means you've read a manual to look at what you're doing. So I don't know. I suppose we'll just have to wait and see. It's still early days, and certainly from the beta testers, the feedback I got from the beta testers is something they really like. But then some of them are a bit more technically advanced than others. But some of the beta testers that have just want to play paintball. And for those guys, all they do is they just take the gun out of the box when I send it to them.
It doesn't need to be adjusted, does it? You just leave it alone if you want to just play paintball. It's been, it's right from here, isn't it? So, okay. Gordon.
Yeah, Cunley.
It's not that doesn't say straight Cunley, does it?
Yeah, in a very roundabout way.
Cunley. Okay. He's asked quite a few questions, but one of the questions he's asked, Cockapunk. There you go. He's basically
Gordon.
Yeah.
That was his surname.
The reason I've put this in here is
he can ask me a question anytime he likes as well.
Well, I like this question. The reason I've asked you this question is because I didn't have a clue what it was, so I thought I'd ask it and then you can answer it me. So this is from Ledz, and his username is Ledz on TechPB as well. It says, does the system like this provide enough restrictions to cause an air spring like we've seen under high speed videos with other guns like the Legend and the Matrix? Could it be made to do this? Do you think bolt bounce can reduce coil? Don't know if is that two questions?
No.
What's an air spring?
What is an air spring? It's where you use compressed air like a spring. So if you have a fixed volume of air,
like a cushion.
Yeah, using it like a cushion, not like a cushion you sit on. So if you get like a plunger and you block one end of it and you push it down, it springs back on. That's like an air spring. Right. So what he's asking is, can you close it off to mean that as the bolt's coming backwards, I presume he's referring to, that you compress the air at the back and actually get it to slow the bolt down? No, you can't. From what we've seen on the traces, you can't actually get any kind of rebound from the air cushion, but you can virtually stall the. Got it set so that on its minimum setting, it almost stalls the bolt on its rear movement. It comes about halfway and actually virtually stops before going to the final resting position. So it's as close as we can get to being foolproof. If it was rebounding, then I wouldn't be happy with that because it can start causing issues with pinching balls that are trying to enter the breech from the loader. I didn't want to do that.
Right.
So, no, it's just right.